Hello, writers, and welcome back to Spooky Writes, your channel all about writing. I'm your host, who is secretly a ghost, Kamal Onor. Now, have you ever felt that your writing is just not good enough? Have you ever felt that you just can't do it? That there's no way that you could ever be a writer? Well, that's what we're talking about today. So make sure if you get any value from this video, make sure to give it a good thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. It helps it out a lot. And with that said, let's head into the storm.
It's the raven's call, the werewolf's howl, the vampire's bite. You search through the woods for safety, but all you find is... Okay, rights.
So I'm going to talk about what prevents so many people from ever becoming writers, from ever achieving the goal of creating material. And a lot of it is self-inflicted damage. A lot of it is negative self-talk. A lot of it is negative self-concepts that we have of ourselves. And this is really what prevents so many people from ever even attempting to be an author, from ever attempting to be a writer. And I've heard this many times when I've told people that I'm an author. People have told me in the past, they've said things like, I once wanted to be an author, but I decided not to be an author because I didn't feel that anyone was going to listen to me. And this is that idea that so many people have, especially beginning writers, have this idea of who am I? Because we tend to pedestalize authors. We put people who have achieved monumental success as anomalies. And the truth is, writers are everyday people who have decided to be disciplined with the craft of writing. And I believe that anyone is capable of learning and developing the skills necessary to writing. If I didn't, why would I have this channel, right? This channel is all about helping you to grow, helping share some of the tips and tricks that I've experienced throughout my writing career. So if you never want to write in your entire life, if you want to give up on the idea of ever being a true author, of ever being a true writer, the worst thing you can do is have a negative mindset of who you are, and you have to adopt a growth mentality because you can be as imaginative as anyone, you can be as creative and as hardworking as you can possibly be, and the key driver of your success as an author truly comes down to you and how hard are you willing to work on your craft? How hard are you willing to work on your story? How hard are you willing to continue to face rejection? Because writing is about rejection. Every author throughout the history of time has been rejected. There is not a single author who goes, and it's done, and it's perfect, and everyone loves it, and they make $1 million overnight. That does not happen. So if I could give any kind of word of wisdom for people who feel like they're not enough, you need to understand that this is not your final version, and that if you want to pursue writing. You don't have to be good at it, and you certainly shouldn't, and you certainly don't have to be good at it when you first start out. Early writing is almost always awful, and you just have to write, and you just have to get all that bad writing out of you. And the truth is that the more that you write, the better you will get. And the people who are successful as authors are people who have been rejected many times throughout their entire writing career, and you are only seeing the pinnacle of their achievement. When you look at a Stephen King book, you don't think about the hundreds of rejections that he received on all his early work. You don't see the sacrifices that he made. You don't see the sacrifice that authors have made. It's that idea that people don't see the grind, they only see the shine. And this leads us to become so mystified with the idea of the author, with the idea of the person in a room by himself, meticulously crafting a novel, and it's perfect on the first attempt. No, it takes years and years of honing your craft, years and years of working at your ability of writing. And so many people are not willing to commit to this amount of time. So many people are not willing to have that devotion. So many people end up giving up along the way, and you have to be persistent with writing. If you want to be successful as an author, you have to be persistent, and you have to acknowledge and you have to accept that there are going to be growing pains. There are going to be times when you're going to sit down at your computer and you're going to say, I can't write anything today. And then there's going to be days when you sit down and the words will just start flowing and it'll feel like magic. And the thing is, you have to keep coming back to the blank page. You have to keep coming back to the work. Writing is very much like having an endless amount of homework, an endless amount of assignments, and you have to hold yourself accountable, because at a certain point, there is no one else holding you accountable. No one really cares if you don't finish your work in progress, if you don't finish that short story, if you don't finish that novel. Not many people care until you have actually finished a piece of work, which is why I always recommend early writers and beginning authors to really ideally start with the short story. Forget about tackling the novel early on. If you have an idea that you think is worthy of a novel, by all means hold on to that, but try and write a shorter story. Try and write a short story version of your story first, and practice. Write 100 short stories. Write them over and over again until you get the craft of writing down, until you get so immersed in the idea of writing that you can barely sleep at night, because you have to hold yourself accountable, and you have to understand that writing is a process. No one is born great at writing. Kids are incredibly creative, right? Children are insanely creative. Children can sit by themselves, and I'm not talking about today's children, but children when I was a child 100 years ago, children actually had imaginations and played outside and actually had creativity. And this is great. This is something that you can that children can be incredibly creative, and writing can also be incredibly creative. But children do not write coherent, cohesive novels that get published. So understand that you have to devote so much time and so many years of your life you have to devote to the craft of writing. And there's no guarantee, there's no promise that you'll ever get to a point where you're capable of publishing a best-selling novel. And this shouldn't be your goal in the first place. You shouldn't be setting out there to make $1 million writing a novel. You should be seeking to write the best story that you can possibly do with your own skill. And I can tell you that even in my own publishing career, I've had over 35 short stories published. I have my novella that's now coming out October 10th, so be looking for that. But every story that I write, I'm always very proud of the publications that I have, but each publication that I get after the last one, I always feel is a better story. So I'm always constantly improving, always constantly learning about writing, whether it's the amount of reading that I'm doing, or if it's just I get through some creative block with a story and I suddenly find some new technique. But there are no shortcuts to writing. And so many people feel that if I'm not successful overnight, then I don't have the talent. I'm not one of the chosen ones who people are going to actually listen to. Who am I? And when you have this mentality of who am I, it doesn't matter who you are. Anyone is capable of sitting down and writing, and anyone is capable of sitting down and improving and developing their voice. And this is what you have to do if you want to be an author. If you don't want to be an author, continue to tell yourself that no one will ever read your stories. Continue to tell yourself that no one cares about what you have to say. No one cares about your voice, because everyone has a unique voice. And the number one thing that you have to do as an author is you have to discover and you have to find this voice. And once you find this voice, write the stories that you want to write. And don't worry about an audience. Don't worry about who's going to read it. Write a story that you can be proud of, and this is going to be the best key for success. And with that, keep it spooky.